I'm Adam Watson, Digital Learning Coordinator at Shelby County Public Schools in Shelbyville, Kentucky. Welcome to our podcast series, Shelby Speaks, Looking Forward. We chose that subtitle for two reasons. First, we are looking forward to the time when we can be face-to-face with our students again, but we are also looking forward in time to the educational future of our district. We have two things that center in as a theme for our podcast. What are Shelby teachers learning in the middle of this non-traditional instructional experience? And how will it transfer to, as well as transform, their classrooms when they once again are inside of their schools? In today's very special jam-packed episode, we're here today with three teachers. Casey Robinson, who teaches 8th grade language arts.
Hi.
LaPorsha Jackson, who teaches 8th grade social studies.
Hi, guys.
And Sarah Buchanan, who also teaches 8th grade language arts.
Hello.
Casey, LaPorsha, and Sarah work together at West Middle School. Ladies, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks.
So we're going to jump into our first question. What structures were already in place that helped you transition to this extended, unplanned, non-traditional instructional time?
Well, to start off, we were already working on a cross-curricular project-based learning opportunity with our students at West before we left for the NTI, extended NTI, I should say. And so here I have kind of like our outline of what our PBL was supposed to be, but we found ourselves having to be really flexible with this timeline and adjust it for the time that we ended up having in the break. So, but because we already had this PBL set up, we already had a lot of opportunities for students to have personalized learning through their one-to-one devices, their Chromebooks that they're given through the district. We already had a learning management system that we were using called Empower that was making it really, really easy for the kids to transition from what we were doing in class to doing it online. And so that made it really, really easy. And because we're working together as a group, the three of us, when we had our exhibitions of our PBLs this past Monday, we were able to kind of break up the logistics of that exhibition that we did through Zoom. And each of us took on a role. And I can tell you right now that this was not something that I would have wanted to do without having some partners during this situation. So the fact that we were working together made it run a whole lot smoother.
That's awesome. And obviously, we're clearly the three members of the greater 8th grade team here. That's an example of how collaborative and well you all are working together. And I definitely want to hear more about this virtual PBL exhibition as we go on, the one that happened just a few days back. So next question, though, is about unexpected challenges. So what were some unexpected things that for you or your students that's popped up during this NTI time?
Well, a lot of the challenge centers around transitioning a great night at our capstone museum with classrooms and hallways and tables and props and all of those things into a virtual setting. And how do you allow for 180 students who were going to present simultaneously to now present one at a time and still make it time manageable? So that was a big shift in our thinking that we had to make. And luckily, as Portia said, we were able to really work as a team and kind of work really seamlessly to think, what are we going to do now? There was never a question of us not doing this project. It was always, how are we going to get it done? And I really appreciate that kind of growth mindset that comes from this team of how are we going to fix this and make it better. Some of the problems that we saw were from the kids, their time management skills. Instead of knowing exactly how many minutes they had in each classroom, sometimes now they're working from noon to 8 p.m. or from 8 p.m. to midnight or overnight. I wake up and assignments have been turned in the middle of the night. So them getting a grasp of what they had to do to manage their own time and manage themselves was has been a big learning curve for the kids, I think. The social impact of this. They haven't ever really realized what they gained through socializing, not only with each other, but with their teachers in their lives too. I think as soon as 3 days had gone by, we started hearing, we miss you, we miss school, this is terrible, we hate it, we want to come back. And I think they never thought that would happen before.
Especially for middle schoolers, right? I mean,
Yeah,
those are
exactly.
supposed to be the tough kids, but they miss and want their teachers to. Yeah, go ahead.
They had to manage their own wireless capabilities. I think that they never realized how much time or technology it would take to kind of do school from home. Communication with their teachers has changed. We have those kids who have never had a one-on-one conversation with a teacher because they're so shy, or they never raise their hands in class because they don't want to be embarrassed. Those same kinds of things happen in a virtual classroom. And so personalized learning, wait time, small group conferences, one-on-one conferences, different avenues of communication for the kids to reach out to us have all been incorporated. I think in one day I will get a text message, a GoGuardian chat, a Teams chat, an email, and a Zoom call. And a Google Classroom and an Empower. So, the kids are reaching out through 8 different avenues of communication to me. So that's a lot for me to manage, but it's worth it to let the kids feel comfortable in that communication.
I love it. I love it. Well, moving on to the next question, it's about talking about what's been the new learning. So what's a new tool or strategy that you've been using during your NTI time? And also thinking ahead, how you utilize what you've learned and how well that worked when you transition back to your brick and mortar school in the future.
Well, a brand new tool for me, and I think for a lot of us, is the Zoom platform, where we are communicating video conferencing with our students. And that is what we use to pull off exhibition night, our virtual exhibitions, just this past Monday. And Zoom is a really valuable tool to bring families and other people into your classroom. So I think that's something I definitely want to use as we progress with what's left of this year and into next year. I also would like to use Zoom as an extra support or remediation service, maybe like ESS after school hours. I feel like private one-on-one sessions with students or small groups have been very beneficial because they are not distracted by classmates or those insecurities of maybe being pulled in a small group in front of their classmates. I wanted to point out that I believe this speaks to Shelby County Public's strategic leadership plan. You see this year, 2019-2020 school year, we were creating personalized learning plans with all students, those PLPs. And going into next year, we want to share the PLP ownership with students. And I believe that by using the platforms that we have available now and that we feel comfortable with now provides more opportunity for students to step up and own their learning.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Going to the last question then for the group. If you could go back in time and give advice to your pre-NTI self, what would it be?
Well, for starters, one thing that I'm realizing is when I was using NTI for regular SNOGO days, I think I was giving way too much work to my students. I actually was trying to give them a full 75-minute class period worth of assignments. And now I'm realizing that their setup at home is not set up the same way it is at school. And they might not necessarily have the time or the capability to sit and do, 8 full hours worth of schoolwork. And so I had to kind of pull it back some, especially for this extended period, and really focus in on what's important for the kids to learn. And not only that, but I've kind of come up with a new strategy of I'm doing one day where I'm doing direct instruction, and the remainder of the week, the students are diving into the topic that we learned from direct instruction independently, and they're going a lot deeper. And I think that that's a strategy I'll be able to take with me to the future, but I wish it was something that I was doing before.
I love that. Yeah, great. Next, let's see, is it Sarah?
Yeah, I kind of touched on this when I was talking about the issues that we were having, and it's just that some of the same rules apply from your, your classroom as they do in the digital classroom. And one of those big things is the wait time of staring at a computer screen of a bunch of kids with no cameras on and no microphones on, and you think you're talking to yourself and just still waiting them out just like you would in a regular classroom. I find myself kind of just talking and not getting a lot of responses back from the kids. And I have to just kind of pause and say, okay, I'm going to stare at you now until you talk to me, until you turn your camera on or message in the chat or do something to be involved in this classroom. So just trying to get that involvement back in that we had in the classroom, where they used to just talk all over each other and shout and be, 8th graders. And now they're very quiet.
Right. I love it. That's great. Casey, go ahead.
I'm going to take it to a personal level. If I could tell my pre-NTI self something, it would be to allow myself some grace and to find it within myself to take care of myself. We do not have our coworkers who are our friends next to us. We can't go to them for a pep talk, a hug, a place to vent. We don't have our students right there with us. So there's this feeling of isolation, and we tend to over focus on ourselves. So I think it would just be to take care of myself.
I think those are great words, and those are words that apply in NTI times and outside of NTI times. So well said, well said. Well, ladies, thank you so much for taking the time today to speak to us, and thank you for being willing to being very honest and transparent and share the professional learning and experiences you've been going through.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, be sure to check out our Shelby Speaks Looking Forward playlist on our Shelby County Public School YouTube channel for more podcast episodes like these. And until then, thanks for watching.